All right, in today's episode, we're going to be talking about steps to living our dream life, whatever version that is to yourself. I got my buddy Brandon here with me again because him and I, we both have different perspectives and yet we are able to achieve a similar outcome. And we had a couple of ideas because everything seems to start with an idea to be able to get something started. So I wanted to let Brandon talk about his ideas of how he got started out with what he was doing. And then we'll just kind of see where the conversation carries us from there.
Perfect. Yeah. I mean, I think that there's a couple main steps that no matter what you're trying to set out to do, you actually do need to follow. So that's kind of what like, and this is from my experience. So that's why I wanted to get into these. And it's really about kind of building your dream life, right? Like, and that's different for everyone. What do you want to do? Some people want to, quit their job and kind of work for themselves. Some people want to get in shape, the best shape of their life. Others, might want better relationships, whether that be romantically or friendships, and they don't quite know the steps to take them from where they are here to where they want to ultimately go. So, in terms of, I think where everything starts, I truly believe that it's with an idea. No matter if, it's the Wright brothers with airplanes or, something more recent, Elon Musk with Tesla, it all really just stems from a simple thing, which is an idea, right? But of course, we have to act on our ideas to then make them reality. Do you kind of agree that's where really there's no other place to start than with an idea?
Yeah, feel like the idea is everything, and you cut out just for a second there. So I'm gonna do my best to kind of reiterate on what we were talking about. So you were just saying that the idea is everything, and having the idea. If we don't have a good idea, then we're not going to be able to make the progress. Is that kind of what
An
you were talking
idea
about?
in general. So I think everything stems from an idea, a simple idea. And that was, like I said, whether it's something recent, Elon Musk with Tesla, the Wright brothers with airplanes, everything kind of starts with an idea.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. And the bigger the idea, the more obtain like it's going to take longer to get to that idea. So like it could be having the idea of building a plane like the Wright brothers, and it's like that's a great place to start. Is a matter of not limiting the idea that you may have it within your head, from what I've been able to realize. So like if I have an idea of wanting to say start a consulting business or start a podcast, like I'm going to be aiming for the stars. Like that's
Yeah.
the place, the idea that I have. I just have to take the necessary steps to be able to get to that place and realize that it takes one step at a time to accomplish that idea.
Correct. Yeah. And if the first step is an idea, a simple idea, the second step would be having actual belief, right? That idea that you can actually do what you're thinking about. And if you don't have wholehearted belief in what you're doing or what you want to accomplish, then the next, couple steps are going to be that much harder. And I don't feel like people are going to have that much interest and involvement in reaching their desired outcome if the belief simply isn't there. And I think we can relate this to a little bit of what you were talking about in terms of sales, right? I think you were hitting certain numbers before at your previous position, and you really believed, from what I understand, in the product, in the service. And so it was that much easier to sell. But then that belief sort of whittled away and it was harder. And, the numbers didn't happen.
Yeah, that's the crazy part. When we believe in something, then it makes it a whole lot easier to make it happen. And I was talking to this guy in the sauna the other day too, and he asked me the question of, "Do you understand the difference between belief and faith?" And I was like, "Belief is something that I have intrinsically within myself, whereas faith is something that I can't necessarily see." So, like, I believed in that product that I was selling, I believed in the service that I was providing, and then that just all crumbled when it was like, hey, so the things that you're doing just isn't working, and that belief that I had for what I was doing just dissipated in the whole way, and that decreased my numbers. And I feel like that's applies to anything that we do. If we don't believe in what we're doing or in what we're saying or the actions that we're taking, they're not going to take us as far as we want them to.
Yeah, and I really actually do love what you just said between belief and faith. Belief is, yeah, you believe that something can happen and you're going to do everything that you can to make that happen. You believe. And I totally agree. Faith is, hey, it's out of my hands. If it happens, it happens. So that's interesting that you bring that up, because I haven't actually thought about it that way before. That those two things, everyone probably thinks they mean the same in a way, but they're two completely separate things.
Yeah, because belief you can see. Like for you and the FBA, it's like, okay, I believe that I can make these numbers because I've seen these before. For me in sales, it's like, okay, I believe that I can sell said product because like I've been able to do this 100 times before. And then the
Mm-hmm.
faith comes in and it's like, well, I have faith that I can start a business. I have faith that I can make a podcast work. I have faith that I can make YouTube work because I have the belief in myself that I was able to make it happen in all these other areas. I haven't done it
Mm-hmm.
quite yet. So it's a matter of just making it happen, which it's tough because a lot of people, I think, from what I've come to see, have lost their faith and have lost that ability to believe in the unseen. We could kind of tie it back to like Santa Claus, the Easter Bunny, like holidays that we have. Like when we were kids, we had the faith. It's like, oh, these presents are going to be coming to us. Like we don't know how they're going to get here, but they're just going to come
Mm-hmm.
magically. And then
Correct.
they show up, and we absolutely love it. And then I look back, and it's just like at some point we seem to lose that as we grow older. And it's just like if we had that faith that we did as a child that things are just going to work out, it kind of makes me think of like, well, what could happen? How big could I actually become? Like how big could the business be? So having those
Mm-hmm.
beliefs and that faith, I think they tie together as one. And a lot of
Mm-hmm.
times we seem to make them separate in a sense, but also same in the like similar in the same way, if that makes
Yeah, I
sense.
think they do. They do work together for sure, but they are separate things. And if the first step is, have an idea, and everything starts with an idea, and the second is having belief of what you're aspiring to do can actually be done and you can do it, then the third thing is planning, right? And these are the steps that I have found that, from going from, again, where you are to where you want to be, what I've found to be the steps. So start planning how you're going to actually make it happen. So if we use an example here of someone who wants to go out on their own, kind of be their own boss, and get out of the rat race, quote unquote, I think that you have to have a plan, and everyone's plan looks a little bit different. Whereas, my plan was like, hey, making sure I'm financially secure, making sure my healthcare is taken care of, making sure my investments are where they need to be before making the jump. And then, yours, and again, totally fine, is a little bit different. Kind of, hey, I got to have my back against the wall a bit. And I know that it'll work out. And those are two different plans, right? One isn't necessarily better than the other. Because for me, for example, even though that, yeah, maybe having my back against the wall would make me a little bit more desperate in a sense, and then make me, because of that, work that much harder and put in that much more time. I didn't feel like I needed that to jumpstart, what my goal was. And my idea was, hey, I want to quit my 9 to 5, and I want to go ahead and run my own company, and that take care of all of my income needs.
Yeah, it's funny because like you had a structure. Like you're like, okay, I need to have this taken care of. I need to have this taken care of. I need to have this taken care of. And that was a belief that you had where I was just like, I'll figure it out as I go. I have no idea how I'm going to make it work, but like I'll make it work one way or another. I'll just start walking, as I think we talked about in the other video too. So it's tough because everybody has a different way of doing it. Like your steps to getting to success are completely different from my ways to getting to success. Yet we both have a belief that we can make it happen. And I think that's the
And we
part
had
that,
the idea in the first place that we can set out to do this. Because, like, think about it. Me 2 years ago, maybe even you, I can't speak for you, but 2 years ago, me myself, did I think that I can just completely quit my job, leave my benefits, not contribute to a company's 401k, and completely replace my income with just my own business? I mean, I thought that eventually someday that could happen, but I wasn't like, oh yeah, like this is going to be super easy. I'll do this very quickly. Like I didn't have that belief, but I had an idea that it could happen eventually. But I didn't necessarily put the steps in to be like, hey, this is like, for example, for my business, this is what I need to do. I need to increase revenue of the business by this much while still holding this percentage profit margin and then paying myself this much. And then boom, like I can totally step away from my 9 to 5 and hey, I'm going to get on my wife's healthcare plan and that's taken care of. And hey, I'll open up a solo 401k and I can contribute to that. I don't need a traditional employer's 401k. And like all those little things are steps that I wasn't thinking about, because I feel like when you really break down the steps, it's maybe easier than you think. But if you go throughout life with anything and just kind of wonder and broadly think about things without breaking it down into steps, it almost seems like it can't even, like what you're trying to do can't be reached.
Yeah, it's funny because like you do need those steps. And I was just listening to this thing this morning where he gave the analogy of, if I tell a 5-year-old to clean up their room, does a 5-year-old know how to clean up their room? It's like, yes. And then it's like, well, if I told a 3-year-old or a 2-year-old to clean up their room, would they understand how to clean up their room? In all likelihood, probably not, because they don't get the necessary steps that are required to be able to say, do the business. And that's why, like, one of the videos that I just did around screen time was I was asking people like how much they use their screen time to figure out like where the time was going. And I came to the same conclusion as yourself, where it's like, if we have a problem, there is a way to solve that problem. It's a matter of looking at the big picture and then breaking it down into like small individual steps to be able to get to that point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think just having that plan and just kind of visually. Some people are really visual people. Some people need to write it out. I have a dream board, right? And some people think it's kind of like cheesy or whatever, but I think that like having even quotes like this up here, or think bigger, which is over here, because this one up here says, people do not decide their futures, they decide their habits, and their habits decide their future, right? And just like having these little nuggets of reminders around me, you don't even have to read it every day. It's just subconsciously there in the content I produce, when I walk in the room, and even my dream board that's over there. But just having these visual reminders in place makes it feel that much more attainable for me. So without getting off, I guess, too much of a tangent, again, reiterating, have an idea. Everything starts with an idea. Have belief that what you're aspiring to can be done. Start planning how you're going to make it happen. And the fourth step, set out to educate yourself and simply like learn the skills you need to succeed in that field, right? So I don't know if you have an example of that, but I get for me, maybe it's we go into fitness, right? And again, this can be applied to anything. So educate yourself. If you have no idea what you're doing in the gym, you might want to, look some stuff up online, maybe even take it a step further and get a personal trainer. And this could be conveyed to, hey, I want to start a business. Let me go find a coach and take a course, right? But so it can kind of go hand in hand, but you really need to kind of start educating yourself. Well, what is my main goal? Is it whole body fitness? Well, then, hey, I need to incorporate cardio. I need to do lower body, legs, right? I want to sculpt my back. So, and then educating yourself on what all this means, and then how to set out and actually make it happen.
Yeah, because if you don't have that clear structure, if you don't have the things around you, like the posters, like I got the balance, I got another one over there by Neville Goddard, where it talks about like if you don't have that structure of those things around you, it's going to make it a whole lot harder to be able to accomplish that idea or that goal. And I think it's a matter of having clear intentions. So it's like if we use the lifting example, are you trying to lose weight? Are you trying to get stronger? Are you trying to increase your cardiovascular? Like, what is your outcome? Like, what do you want to happen after 6 weeks, a year, 2 years? And not looking in like this smaller picture. So it is a matter of, I guess, finding the right goal that you want and then working backwards, like trying to read the books or listening to the podcast or asking questions, taking a course, whatever it may be. But you have to have that idea first. The idea has to first be planted in our head of like, okay, I want to have a 6-figure business. I want to be making 6 figures a month. Like I want to be doing all these big things, and realize that it's going to take time for that to grow. And once the time takes, and Go ahead.
Yeah, and then just educating yourself, right? And learning the skills because yeah, you can have the idea, you can have the belief that you can get the better body, you can start planning, but from there, you need to learn the skills. You need to learn the right movements you need to do to get that desired outcome, right? You need to learn how to maybe pace yourself on the treadmill or elliptical or whatever you're or, in the pool, whatever you're using for cardio. And if you want to build your biceps or back, for example, you need to learn the skills, right? Educate yourself on what you need to do. Not everyone knows that, hey, if you want to build, your back, you got to do these certain exercises, lat pull downs, rows, all this stuff. So that's where the education comes in there.
And that's why I always educate myself by asking people at the gym. Like I just approach people that looked bigger, that looked stronger than me, and I was like,
Yeah.
"Hey, can I work out with you?" Or like, "What are you doing to be able to get to this? Like, how do you look the way that you do?" And then they tell me, and then I just implement the things that they do. So I think that they're
Mhm.
like all the information's out there. It's just a matter of implementation. Like we can watch all the videos. Like I've watched all the videos. I've watched countless business videos. I've watched countless sales videos. I've read countless sales books, negotiation books, psychology books to understand my mind and where I needed to be. And I've started to realize that the only true way to really grow is by getting into the gym, by starting the business, by having the conversation, by
Yeah,
posting that
asking the
first video, by
questions,
selling the
right?
first
Simply
product.
asking the questions. If you don't want to be that person, like, because again, if you're not a shy person, just going up to people and asking questions, you can take shortcuts that way, right? Because if someone has, for example, like the body or that you want, simply ask them, "Hey, what exercises are you doing?" Rather than going home and watching YouTube videos or studying from a book, right? So I think that that's a shortcut.
Yeah, you can I think there needs to be a balance between all of them. Like you should talk with people to bounce off the ideas, go use those shortcuts. Also read the books if you have the problems, because like that was what I always did. Like I read the books. I did a lot of self intuition and self reflection to figure out what I needed, or
Yeah.
take the courses. Because like that's how the idea is going to grow. That's how you're going to get a bigger idea. That's how like you're going to find more success is by asking people that have already done it beforehand, because from what
Hmm.
I've come to realize, a lot of people that are successful share their success, and just very few people seem to implement upon the success or the stories that they're saying, because they're like, there's no way that it's that simple. There's no
Yeah,
way
and
that
it
I just had
is.
to put in the work and it'll work.
Yeah, and it's easier said than done. And of course, I could tell someone, how much I'm making, like what I'm doing, how I'm doing it, the steps, and they could not even act upon it. I actually gave a friend a course. It was like a $600 course on a certain subject that they wanted to pursue that I had access to. I gave them the credentials to access said course, and nothing ever came of it. And so, first of all, that person didn't value what I gave them, even though it was $600 that was paid, right, by someone, right, first, and giving them the username and password to log in to do what they wanted to do. They just didn't even take action, right? So, you can give people the tools, it doesn't mean they're going to pick them up and use them.
No. And that's been the hardest part, and the thing that I've had to come to realize, because I wanted to help everybody. And I've had to understand that the idea that I have, some people will use it. Like I feel like you and I, like whenever we talk, we always seem to bounce off the ideas and implement those ideas. Then there's
Yeah.
other people that are listening to this right now where they'll just listen to this and be like, okay, hey, that's cool. But I also look at it as it's more of like it's taking steps to help them get to their final destination, to help them get to the top of the mountain. So like the course that you gave your friend, that was nice of you to do, and something that like I think a lot of people will find value in. It's just I've come to realize if you don't pay for something, you don't have any real skin in the game, so you're not going to actually implement upon said course from the beginning.
True. True. Yeah. No, and that's it. Because especially if you have skin in the game and you actually use your own money to do said thing, you exactly that. You have way more skin in the game, and you have something to lose. Where if someone physically hands you and gifts you something, there's not as much. Even though it's weird to say, there's not as much perceived value for said thing that you're giving. So I think that yeah, and that's why I'm a proponent of actually paying for courses, right? If everything was free, first of all, you wouldn't even know the value you're getting. Typically, better courses are higher priced, they're more in depth, they might be a little bit more money, say $1,200 versus $500 or $600. That's not always the case, especially someone starting out new, just trying to get some sales out there and get some reviews on their platform. But I think that, yeah, having skin in the game and being able to pay for something definitely keeps you accountable. And I think that so again, reiterating, I love to reiterate, have an idea, have belief in what you're doing can be done by you. Start planning how you're going to make it happen, set out to educate yourself, learn the skills that you need to succeed in that field. And then finally, and it sounds simple, execute on the plan and show up each day, AKA stay consistent. That's where I really feel most people kind of drop off is executing. And this leads in like literally what we were just talking about, and staying consistent with what they're trying to do.
Because the execution, that's probably where having somebody else help you grow that idea, or having like a coach, a mentor, somebody that you can talk to each and every single week could help that idea grow a lot quicker than if, say, you're doing it on your own. Because then
because I think you have someone's holding you accountable. And again, some people need that and some people don't. Some people are really big self-starters and they can make it happen. They have the discipline, the time management, all that stuff. And others really do need and you could call it hand holding in a way, but that's like a negative connotation, I would say. Some people need a check-in partner and like an accountability coach to make sure like, hey, did you do what you needed to do last week? If not, well, let's talk about it. Why didn't that happen? And some people need that. And the person who's kind of like the thought leader in that space needs to not be kind of harsh and cruel and yell at that person, but almost aim to kind of understand why that person didn't do what they set out to do.
Yeah, and I think it depends, because some people, I've known friends that they love being yelled at. Like whenever I work out with them, like they want to be yelled. They want to be like, just like pushed that way. But then there's other people that I've worked out with where it's like, all right, let's take more of like a subtle approach. Let's take more of a gentle approach. And I think it's a matter of knowing the person and understanding what they believe to be true and meeting them at their certain beliefs, and then kind of helping them break those beliefs along the process. Mm-hmm. Because by doing so, it almost creates a new way for them to think that they might not have originally had, so that then that idea that they had can start to grow even larger than it might have done originally.
Yeah, and I think that everyone needs different kinds of help. And some people, they might not even know what they need or what they want. And I think it's the thought leader or coach's job to dig that out and figure it out, to then help that person in a more timely manner. Because not everyone, say for example, someone had a gym trainer that was super, soft spoken, mellow, kind of let things fly under the radar, let things slip a bit, right? And they might be comfortable with that trainer, but they really need the person that's going to kind of be in your face, kind of combat you in a way, in a nice way, and really kind of dig deep rather than let things slide. Hey, if you didn't do your 2 days of cardio and you want to lose weight, if you didn't do those 2 days of cardio last week, or you didn't stick to your meal plan and you went out and ate or drank, then you might need to be a little bit harsh on that person, but that person might not know that they need that harshness from their coach.
And I challenge that, because I think it's more a matter of figuring out what that person did.
Okay. In terms of what...
Was I just talking over you for a second? You cut out for just a minute.
No, you weren't talking over me.
Okay. Sorry. Our recording is a little off right now, you guys, so do apologize for that. But yeah, like, I mean, if say the person did get off the meal plan, it's a matter of figuring out why they fell off, like understanding what their real goals are. Because like I was talking to this guy in the sauna the other night too, and he was like, oh yeah, I started down the self-development route. And I was like, okay, like why was that? And he's like, well, it was because I wanted mentorship. And I was like, well, was it a couple? And he's like, yeah, it was a couple. And I was like, okay, so I knew exactly what he was talking about at that point in time.
An MLM, right? It's an MLM. At that point, do you recall what MLM he's currently in?
It was some other, it wasn't Amway. It was one of the other ones.
Yeah, Amway's one of the biggest ones, and those people, they can be pretty aggressive. To be honest, I've had, and again, this is off on a tangent, but it's kind of interesting. Some of these stories, I've gotten approached. The only time I really get approached is at grocery stores, to be honest, and it's one of two things: either they comment on my shoes, or they comment on my shirt, essentially, and that sort of gets your foot in the door. I kid you not. I went to one grocery store and I had this guy comment on my shoes, and then the grocery store I was at didn't have like one ingredient that I needed to make like this Whole30 meal. So I went to a different grocery store that's closer to my house. Lo and behold, the guy went to a different grocery store and he didn't even remember me. He commented on my shoes again, and it was the same guy. And I had to be like, dude, I appreciate what you're doing and I totally get what you're doing, but I'm really not interested. Please stop. And so anyway, I just thought I'd share that story because yeah, some MLMs can be pretty pushy, but
So let, I want to question. I want to ask you this. It's like, what do you think the MLM, like, what belief makes them want to believe that? Hey, I want to start out and follow these people, because clearly the people in the MLM and the Amways and following the couples, they're
they
giving
believe it.
somebody a belief. So, like,
Yeah.
what do you think?
It's
that
financial
is?
freedom. 100% I can answer that question. It's the belief of financial freedom and quote unquote passive income. That's literally what they're teaching, especially for, I mean, I think for any MLM, you're doing it for the money. You're doing it as, they say to build a better future for you and your family, kind of quit your job and work on your own terms. And it can be a fine way to make money. I know one or two people that have made pretty decent money and are currently still making pretty decent money. Of course, after they've spent years doing it, they've built out pretty large teams. You really have to build out very extensive networks to even cross 100,000 a year, right? And then I think some of the higher tier people, yeah, they're making like 200, 250. If you're like your top 0.2%, maybe you're making like 400,000, which is great. But I just don't have that personality to kind of interject into people's daily lives and keep doing that. Which there's people, I mean, it's essentially sales. Like you're a salesman. And then once you build up enough of a team, then you have salesmen working for you. Then they're adding to your network, and then you're getting paid and they're getting paid.
Yeah, I've just always kind of found it funny because it's like they're selling the dream of like, hey, you'll have this financial freedom, you'll have this ability to live the life that you want to live. And then whenever I ask them, I'm like, well, how much money are you making? Like, how much products are you
Yeah.
selling? They're like, well, we're just getting started. Like, we don't know. And I'm like, well, how long have you been doing it? They're like 3, 4 years. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, do you not have your own dream, like your own goal, like your own belief that you want to do? And that was like
Hmm.
the conversation that I had with him. And as I was talking with him, because I asked him if he wanted to be on an episode, and he's like, no, we only do 1-to-1. We aren't doing customer acquisition. I was like, okay, that makes sense, whatever. But I ended up digging down a little bit deeper and finding that his wife owns like a dog sitting business. I was like, well, how about, like, would you rather do that or Amway? And he's like, well, personally, like, I'd rather do the dog sitting business. It's just the Amway and the MLM was something that gave me hope that I could achieve this thing and have this
Yeah.
different type of belief.
And I think that some people need that. Some people need the structure that these MLMs provide, and some people need the support that these MLMs like you have provide. Like you have a community of people who tell you what to do, how to do it, and then support you in your journey. Some people they need that. It's not for me, but it is for some people. Maybe, I don't know if it's negative to say like the average person who doesn't really have many skills or like a skill set that they deem as valuable enough to kind of provide that. Because at the end of the day, you make money just simply by providing value to another human in exchange for usually money, right? So I think that yeah, you have to have a certain belief system to be in an MLM, but yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. I just find it because everybody wants to believe in this financial freedom of doing MLM or service based business or Facebook
Mhm.
groups or e commerce. And it's just like you can have all those beliefs. I just think that it's good to focus on one specific like area or industry
Hmm.
and then go all in on that thing. So
Yeah,
like
and
if
I think a lot
MLM's
of
the route, like go that route.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people fail at MLMs or any business because it's all about the money, right? If you're going into an MLM or any business and it's literally just all about the money, it's gonna be a little bit harder, I feel like, to succeed. And I that from what I understand, that's what some of these MLMs are pushing, right? Being able to just make a lot of money, right? And go ahead and like leave your worries behind. And it should be more so focused on simply like helping other people. If you have someone in an MLM who just is like greedy and money hungry, and you have someone in an MLM who really is passionate about helping people and kind of, most MLMs are selling products, but really believe in the product and really just want to help people. I feel like that person's going to succeed. It's going to be a lot easier for that person to succeed, and they're more likely to succeed.
And I feel like people can sense the genuineness,
Oh,
authenticity
for
of
sure.
somebody. Like they can tell,
Yeah.
like, okay, this person's just in it for the money. They're greedy. Like they just want to make all this. Where it's just like, if you just do good things, I like to believe in karma and like what you do comes back to you tenfold. So if you treat somebody well,
Mhm.
most likely you'll be treated well in the same process. And when you succumb to
Yeah.
that greed, it almost I feel like it's killed my soul and it's killed certain aspects of myself when I've succumbed to that. I was like, let's just provide value to a smaller group of people and see what we can do from there. And maybe it'll
Mhm.
inspire somebody to have a new belief system or change the way that they have been doing things because a lot of it is just it does come down to what we believe to be true. And if
Mhm.
we've been conditioned to believe MLMs are bad or starting businesses are bad or money's bad or all you need to do is provide value or whatever belief that you have, like if those are the things that you have been conditioned to believe, that's what you're going to believe until somebody comes in and breaks that belief for you.
Yeah, and gives you another perspective way to look at things. Like for example, I have this book right here. I think we talked about it last time, but I didn't have it in front of me. So the magic of thinking big. So this is another book that just kind of gets. Oh, you have it as well.
Yeah, I got it as well. It's a great
Oh,
book.
okay. Yeah, the magic of thinking big. So it was recommended to me by some, I forgot who. Someone recommended, because I always like to, whether I get it from social media, TikTok, or whether I get it from a friend or an acquaintance, book recommendation. If I look it up and it has pretty great reviews and I'm interested in the subject, I'll usually get it. And but again, like I didn't know this book existed. It had to be brought to my attention to actually take action on buying it. But anyway, in terms of what we're talking about here today, belief is one of the biggest things. And then once you have kind of some of the steps in process, and you're kind of going through the motions with those, the having the ability to think bigger than you're currently thinking is something that's very important. But I think that's like you have to take care of the other stuff first, and then the scaling in your ability to think a little bit bigger each day, each week, month, year. That I think that kind of propels you that much further.
Yeah, and I think it comes down to figuring out what voice in your head is stopping you from thinking it bigger. Like what voice is stopping you from, say, flying first class or in a private jet to Japan? Like what voice is
Yeah.
that where it's like, okay, I'm the person that's going to be sitting out like in coach. It's like, is that my voice or is that somebody that's close to me? My mom, my dad, my uncle, my grandparents, a friend of mine. Like whose
Don't
voice is
fly
actually
first class.
suppressing my
It's a
thoughts?
it's a waste of money. Why would you ever do that, right? I mean that's like that's kind of like the poor person mentality of things. Some people again can easily afford it and they just like the extra comfort. Some people do it because, maybe they want to drink a lot for free on the flight, right? Other people do it maybe just because like they're tired and they want to sleep and they know they're going to get a much better sleeping experience if they just go into first class. And other people want to maybe do it to show off, right? So everyone has kind of different ideas and reasons why they do things. But that's funny that you brought that up. I recently flew first class, and it was just because like a deal came up to where it wasn't filled, so it wasn't as expensive as it would have been if I bought the tickets outright. But it was a great experience, right? And I think that we need some of these experiences along the way, whether it's maybe to make you feel better and and kind of get you in a certain mindset. You might need to buy a luxury watch, or you may need to fly first class, or you may need to get a nicer car if you're going to be bringing clients in it, or meeting with people, right? You you may need, like, even though they're material things or services, some people need that to kind of get that extra motivation to keep going.
Yeah, I there's a sales competition that I ended up winning when I was doing sales at my last company, and it was all for people out of New Hampshire where the company was based, and I was out in Colorado. I was like, he didn't create anything for me, so I was like, I'm gonna win this competition. So I won the competition. He's like, all right, what do you want to do? And I was like, I want to drive a Ferrari. Like I want to drive a nice car. So like I ended up getting a rental to go drive a Ferrari through the mountains of Colorado, and it was one of the coolest experiences that I've had. And it kind of showed me it's like, okay, the material things are nice, and like there's money out there for me to be able to obtain said thing. So I think getting into those places to where maybe you wouldn't be able to afford it on your own, maybe finding a way to experience it, because once you experience it once, then the mind starts to do this like this trick where it's like, well, how can I do this again? What do I have to do to make this happen again? And
Mhm.
it's kind of tough because when we do that, it's like then we're always chasing happiness and we're always chasing the next thing. So there needs to be a healthy balance, I think, between the material things and then the internal successes and beliefs
Yeah.
that we have to be true. Because otherwise, you're just going to be being like, well, I got a first class ticket. Let's go charter this time. Oh, well, I got a charter. Like, let's rent out a yacht or something like that. And it just keeps going up,
Let's
and
buy
you
your
never find
own
that
plane, right?
fulfillment.
Like you need to stop at a certain point, but every so often, like even when you came out before, I rented that nice sports car, right? And it's something that I actually have on my dream board as well. And look at it every day. And even though now's not the right time for me to do it, even though I could do it, I know it's not the right time. It'll probably just be next year, right? And that's okay, because especially interest rates are crazy right now. Not that I'd finance a ton on it, but I wouldn't want to put all my money into buying that nice of a sports car outright. But just having the gentle reminder and doing that experience that I had, and you were there as well. It's just fun to kind of visualize and make things seem possible, and really kind of bring that experience into your life. That someday you'll make it happen, but for now, just go ahead and kind of experience it.
Which I think
Go
that kind
ahead.
of ties back to what you were talking about, like with if you're just in it for the money, like
Yeah.
you're gonna fall short. Whereas when you're doing it for other people, you have a bigger reason where it's like you want to, like, at least for me, it's just like I want to be able to have all this wealth and all this freedom so that then I can help all my other friends and help all the people that are close to me. Like obviously I
Mhm.
got to help myself first. I got to put on my own mask. It's just once my own mask is on and I'm well off, like I want to be able to give other people experiences that they wouldn't typically have. Like if that is
Yeah.
flying first class or a nice car or whatever it may be, so that then
Hmm.
maybe that'll break their belief system. And then once
Yeah.
their belief system's broken, then maybe they can go off and do bigger things and be authentic to who they are.
Yeah, and you never know. Some people might look at when I get that car, that I'm showing off, right? Of course, you're going to have those people. And then other people might look at it as a source of motivation. Hey, this guy quit his job. This guy seems to be doing well. He got the car that he's wanted. So I'm taking inspiration from that rather than feeling jealousy and resentment. So just by, even though buying a car for yourself is sort of kind of a selfish thing, and it's not really for other people, if you look outside the scope of things, you might be helping someone in ways that you didn't know, to go back to what you were saying. So I think that there's positive ways to look at things like we just talked about, and then there's negative ways to look at things. And I think that to be well rounded and have balance, you really have to look at things in different ways. For example, like what we just talked about, some people are going to be jealous, some people are going to be inspired.
Yeah, and it's the people that are jealous and become envious, like I feel sorry for them. Like it makes me sad to think that they're upset that somebody's doing so well when it's like you have the exact opportunity to do the exact same thing. It's just a belief system that you have is stopping you and hindering you from achieving those things.
Yeah, and I love to bring in the analogy or example that, have you ever heard of someone that's doing much better than yourself talking down to you about your ideas or your hopes and dreams? The answer is no, even before you answer. Like, obviously, like the people who are doing really well, just want everyone usually to win, right? And they believe that it's true. They know that it can happen because they themselves have done something similar. So you're usually not going to have someone who's doing much better than you or where you want to be talking down on what you want to do. You're usually going to have people talking down, being negative to you that are much lower in some sort of status than you, or are not where that they want to be in life. So then they have to project that onto others, aka you.
And I do think that can be a little subjective of somebody being lower because everybody starts at the place where they need to be. Like it's taken me 5-6 years to be able to get to the place to where I could leave and be like, all right, I'm confident in doing this. So it's like other people could look at me, and I've looked at other people as well too, where it's like, well, they're 17, 18, making millions of dollars and like living their dream life. And I'm like, I don't consider myself lower than them. I just have to realize that they're at a different place in their journey and in their life than I am.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to start with where I'm at right now with the beliefs that I hold and be willing to question those beliefs. Be willing to be like, well, is this actually what I believe to be true? Or is this just something that I thought to be true? And once I have kind of wrapped my head around that and grieved over the loss of certain beliefs that I've had, it almost frees me up. Well, not almost, it does free me up to progress further than I ever could beforehand, which
Yeah,
is something I enjoy.
I was more so talking about people who have negative mindsets and try to bring others down, right? So I was saying that
Mm.
people who are successful, you're not going to see people doing that. People who are more successful than you aren't going to be trying to bring you down and trying to one up you, right? It's the people who are maybe depressed, who are stuck in their life, stuck in their job, stuck in their relationships, who feel so bad about themselves that they feel the need to bring others down to their level. So that's what I meant when I said being lower than someone. Probably not a great choice of words, is very broad, but people who are in a dark place tend to try to bring other people down, whereas people who are right at where they want to be, whether it's high, middle, low, whatever, like they're where they want to be, they tend to not try to bring others down because they're comfortable in their own skin and kind of like where they're at.
Yeah, and I don't know if you have any suggestions on how to help somebody maybe get out of that position if they are surrounded by somebody that is bringing them down. Because, like, for me personally, sometimes I wouldn't say all the time, but it's been people that have been close to me that have
Mm-hmm.
tried to bring me down, and I just had to stand strong and stay true to myself and realize that the mission that I'm on and the reason that I was put here was for bigger things. So I like that. That's how I've been able to get out of it
Yeah.
and make sure that those people don't drag me down. I don't know if you found ways yourself to make sure that you aren't getting dragged down by those people.
You know what? I'll revert to what the entire episode's about. Have an idea. That idea is you want to get away from those people. Have the belief that you can get away from those people and better people are out there. Start planning how you're going to meet those people and make it happen. Right. Set out to educate yourself, learn the skills on how to meet these people. Where are the people who I want to be friends with? Where are they located? What are they doing? Where are they at on a Friday night, Saturday night? Learn, educate yourself, and then simply execute. Go to those places, know how to talk to those people, and form those relationships. And guess what? Not everyone's going to be your friend. So, aka, stay consistent. Just like I said, if you just follow these steps, no matter what you're trying to do, you can make it happen if you literally just follow those few steps.
And is there anything else that you think somebody could do to be able to reach that level if they like let's say it's hard for them to follow those success like those steps because those steps work clearly very well for yourself, but then for me like I have different steps and different procedures to be able to make things happen. So do you think
Mm-hmm.
that there's should people be taking certain aspects from you, certain aspects from me, implementing them, testing
Yeah,
them, trying them out?
I think that I have pretty well-rounded steps, but of course, yeah, people may need to do things in different ways. So my steps, that I outlined aren't the be-all, end-all, right? For how to be successful in whatever you're doing. But I think it's kind of like the all-in-one approach to get people to where they want to be. And I'm sure you can deviate on some of those steps, but I think the main thing is you need to have belief that you can make it happen, what you're trying to do. And then you actually need to take action and put in the work and be consistent. So you at least need to do those few things to make whatever you want to happen actually happen.
Awesome. Is there anything else that you want to leave everybody with today by any chance?
Think big, believe in yourself, and don't give up. right? And
Awesome.
those are the three things that if you just follow those, again, it's easier said than done, and it's very broad. If you follow those things, within time, you'll achieve exactly what you want to achieve.
Awesome, Brandon. Well, I appreciate you coming on for another episode. Have a
Of
feeling we'll
course.
be doing this a lot more.
Yeah.
Obviously, you guys can check him out. Well, maybe not obviously. You guys can check Brandon out on TikTok. He's been posting, I think, once or twice a day on there right now.
Pretty
And
consistently. Yeah.
yeah, it's high valuable content. So if you guys want to learn more about what he's doing and having those beliefs and seeing how he's scaling his business, highly check him out. And yeah, if you guys are interested in more of these conversations, just leave us a follow and we'll talk with you guys on the next episode.